Chapter 3. Ryan. The ambulance woman hurried to where they were parked and came back with something like a fat plastic cast. They began fitting it carefully round the girl's neck. For a second, I had this sick thought that her neck must be broken. Then I remembered our first TKD first aid training program. You always immobilise the head of an injured person to stop any spinal damage. The ambulance guy shone a little torch and I glimpsed her face once more. Neat nose, soft skin, eyes closed. The guy lifted one eyelid and aimed the torch. I saw the eye staring blankly back at him, and for a moment I thought I was going to spew. Minimal pupil response, the ambulance man muttered. He glanced up at us. You know her name? I said nothing. My tongue felt thick and swollen again. Vince shook his head. Then Ash spoke. Tara. We stared at him. She's in the same netball team as this girl I know. Tara somebody. Straight away, both the ambulance crew began talking loudly to her. Tara, can you hear us? Tara? No sound. No movement. Come on, I thought. Come on, please. She's got a pulse, I said. It sounded stupid. The ambulance woman looked at me, then looked away. Tara, she went again. The girl lay still. The guy reached into his box and held a plastic oxygen mask over her, Tara's, face. With his other hand, he began pressing a rubber bulb. Suddenly, I couldn't watch any longer. I turned and banged into Vince. I shoved him aside and stumbled away, my guts churning. Another ambulance was arriving, siren wailing. No, red and blue lights this time. Cops. It was another man and woman team. They went straight to the ambulance crew, who were kneeling under the umbrella that the guy with the cell phone still held over the girl. After a moment, he pointed to us three. The male cop came towards us. The woman began waving traffic on. The rain was lighter now. Who was driving, guys? The cop was young and fair-haired. I made a sort of mumble. See your license? He asked. I passed it over, knowing what was coming. He looked at it, then at me. Restricted. Anyone with you? I could lie easily. Vince wanted me to. I could feel it coming from him. They could say they'd arrived after it happened. There were no witnesses except the girl, and she... But... These two, I said. Vince made a hissing noise. Ash said, We asked, but I stopped him. I said I would. There was no expression on the cop's face. We'll sort that out later. He nodded at my license that he was holding. You still at this address? I didn't answer. The ambulance crew had the girl on a stretcher, mask still over her face, and were carrying her away. Taking her to Central? The cop asked. The ambulance guy nodded. Can I go with her? I blurted. The ambulance crew stared at me. Then the woman shook her head. They'll want you here. They loaded the silent figure into the back and were off, sirens lifting again. The male cop was by the Subaru now, looking at the shattered windscreen, peering inside. He stepped over to his car, then came back with something in his hand. You been drinking, Ryan? No. It came out harsh. He held up something like a long, flat cell phone. Say your name and address into this, please. My breath jerked as I spoke. My back and legs were shuddering. The cop looked at a little window on the side of what he was holding, then showed it to me. Pass, read the window. He put the cell phone thing away. Okay. His voice sounded a bit friendlier. The guy with the umbrella stood beside us. Mind if I go now? My family will be wondering what's happened. So will mine, I thought. I pictured Mum and John. Then a movement made me look towards the footpath. More people had been arriving. Now a man and a woman came hurrying towards us, almost running. They stopped, talking loudly to others, asking something. I couldn't hear the words. The woman stooped and snatched something from the gutter. In the streetlight, I saw a sneaker. It's Tara's, she went. Tara! She began rushing into the road, towards where the cop stood talking to me. The man grabbed and held her. Nobody needed to tell me who they were. Tara. Something gripped my head and neck. It was like the time Mel and Brittany sat on me when we were mucking about at a Year 7 camp. I felt one of them blowing air into my face, and they were calling, "Tara, Tara!" "Sod off and let me sleep," I wanted to say. But I was asleep already. Ryan. The cop began talking to the girl's parents. "Where?" they kept asking. "Where?" I heard the cop say, "Central. We'll take you." The woman shook her head. No, we'll go ourselves." They didn't even glance my way. I don't know what I'd have done if they did. But as they started off, the girl's father turned and stared at Ash and Vince and me, then went on after his wife. I never want anyone else to look at me that way for the rest of my bloody life. On the Glasgow Coma Scale, unconscious patients are rated 1 to 5 in terms of their A, ability to open their eyes, B, response to light and sound, C, response to pain stimuli, e.g. pinching. A rating of 5 indicates clear response and near consciousness. A rating of 1 indicates no response and deep unconsciousness. The patient's rating upon admission was 1 in each category. Immediate treatment included shaving off the patient's hair above one temple, cutting a 3-sided hole in her skull, and lifting up the resulting flap of bone to ease any intracranial pressure, brain swelling, resulting from her injury. Ryan. Another cop car arrived. The guy in it took over directing traffic from the policewoman. Most people were leaving. The show was over. The guy with the umbrella and cell phone had gone. The cops from the first car came over to us. Rain glistened on their parkas. I realised again how soaked I was. My jacket had gone with her. Tara. "All right, Ryan," the fair-haired cop said. "Someone will contact you." I wasn't hearing him properly. "Can I drive the car?" I asked. "I'll be careful." He must have thought I was being smart. He glared at me, then he seemed to see how I was. "The car stays here. We'll want it for tests." He kept watching me. "You sure you're still at the same address?" I was too gutted to answer. I just nodded. Traffic was back to normal now, and the other cop jerked a thumb towards his car. Vince and Ash sat silent in the back. I sat silent in the front. The cop didn't say anything either. The only sound was a few crackles on the car radio. "I'm coming with you," Ash said when we got out at our place. Vince hesitated, then muttered, "Yeah." The cop watched as we trudged up the path to the front door. Mum was in the hallway. She stared at us as we trooped in, sodden and hunched. "Ryan, what?" John appeared behind her. "Where's the car?" I wanted to yell at him. "Never mind the bloody car." When I spoke, my voice still sounded clotted and clumsy. "The cops have got it. There's an accident." My mother's breath jerked. John put his hands on her shoulders. "We're all right," I said. We went through and sat in the dining room, and I told them. Ash helped out. Vince mumbled a few things. My mother listened and gripped John's hand. "The girl?" Mum asked when I'd finished. I shook my head. I'd been staring at the table while I talked, and I couldn't look up now. Vince rang his old man. "I can't give you a lift home, sorry," said John. His voice was flat. After maybe 5 minutes, a car arrived outside. Vince's father runs a car yard, so he's always driving some flash new wheels. "See ya, mate," Ash said. Vince muttered, "Yeah, see ya." He didn't look at me. I wondered what was going through his mind. Mum wanted me to eat something or have a hot shower. I couldn't. So we just sat while another 10 or 15 minutes dragged by. "The Subaru's okay," I said once. "It's just the windscreen." John nodded. Finally, I went to my room. I took off my wet t-shirt and my sneakers. I sat on the bed and stared at the posters on my wall. What was happening to the girl now? Was she... Then I was on my feet, smashing TKD kicks and punching at the door, howling and yelling, watching the skin on my knuckles tear and the blood start to run. Out in the hall, Mum started yelling too. "Ryan, no, love, stop." The door flung open and John charged in. He grabbed me and shook me so hard that the shock of it stopped me dead. "It's no good, mate," he panted. "It's not going to help anybody." He was wrong. It had helped me stop going bloody mad. I'd let Mum give me a pill, then another pill. I lay curled under the bedclothes like a little kid hiding. I heard someone blubbering, and I knew it was me. After a while, I half slept.